Okay, going live in 3, 2, 1. Let's wait for a while. I hope it's live now.
Hello.
Okay, give me a minute. Let me double confirm.
Okay.
Yes, it's live now. Yes.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Hi,
Hello,
Coach
parent.
John.
Okay,
Yes.
just let me start first. Okay? Can.
Okay, sure. No problem.
Okay, hello, parents. This is Coach John here from Learning Out of the Box. And thank you so much for being here. And I know that it has been 2 months since our last chat with Dr. Christina on study techniques. So today I have a very special guest, also a good friend of mine, and his name is Teacher Daniel Tay. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Coach
Thanks,
John.
thanks
Thanks for
for
inviting me.
thanks for being here. Yeah, thanks for being here. So today Teacher Daniel Tay will be talking about mind mapping. Okay, he's a mind mapping expert and meta learning coach, and he's also an NIE-trained ex-MOE teacher, 20 years of tutoring experience. And today he's going to talk about the science of learning how to learn. Okay, Daniel, I think for start, okay, my bad in the sense of I streamed it straight to the Facebook group. Yeah. After 2 months of not doing it, I didn't stream it to the Facebook page. But now nonetheless, I will still post it out later. Yeah. Okay, so I think it'd be good for you to share with us like your backstory, like so how did you transit from being a teacher in school to doing what you love today?
How do I transit?
Or like your journey, like just tell us your story.
My story from how young?
From
When I was a
the
student.
time that you were born.
Oh, by the time I was born. Okay. I
Yeah,
was born.
from any point that actually it is a significant event that shape your world's view on how you see learning today.
Yeah, I think it will start. Should start all the way back when I was in secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, secondary school was when I've decided to be a teacher. That I think that being a teacher is in my blood. So in secondary school, I already decided I want to be a teacher. And then after that, since I went to junior college, and I didn't complete junior college, by the way. A lot of people thought I went through a normal path of education. I didn't complete. I dropped out from junior college after a while. Yeah, I went to a national JC. I
Wow.
dropped out, and then I went to work in some kind of jobs like but selling beer and then waiter, those kind of hourly wage jobs for like half a year. After that, I enlisted in national service and went to NIE Poly after that to take biotechnology. So I was privileged to meet very good teachers there and happened to do quite well and entered NTU. So in NTU, I took biological science.
Wow.
And so also met a lot of great people, great friends, great professors. But the thing that I remember the most is still not the academics. It's still the non-academic parts, of university life. Okay, let me just off my. And after I graduated, I signed on with MOE, but I didn't get sent directly to become an NIE teacher straight. They deployed me as untrained teacher for 1.5 years. Yeah, so after that, I went to NIE, 1 year of training, postgraduate diploma education. Then I returned back to schools to teach. So in 2017, I realized that, okay, I want to teach my way. I'm more of a person that do not like to follow rules. So the MOE system doesn't really suit me very well. That's why I come out and do what I love to do, which is giving tuition and teaching students. So after 3 years, I set up my company, Private Limited, to expand the suite of my services to include teaching meta learning and also mind mapping, because these are really areas that I'm really good at. Yeah, and so far I've been enjoying the process immensely. Yeah.
Yeah. So why why did you choose this field specifically on how to learn? Yeah, because I think the normal route of a tutor will be, okay, they are specialized in one subject like English, Chinese, or mother tongue. Yeah. Okay, so before you answer the question, parents, this Facebook Live is actually done for you, and the reason why we do this is to support parents who teach. And though we teach maths, but to help a child to thrive in maths and in school, it needs so many knowledge. Yeah, so that's why we are here to bring on experts like Daniel to share with you other tools that can help you to help your child in not just in maths but also in other subjects as well. So back to you, Daniel.
Yes, I think that's an excellent question. Why I'm trained to teach English, trained to teach maths and science at NIE, but I realize there is quite a lot of this is a pedagogy, how to teach a specific subject. For me, I realize the skill moving forward is more than just English, maths, science. I think it's very important to have these foundations, but really what is lacking is whether the students know how to learn, and beyond academics, whether they can also do well. So I'm focusing more on from an academic coach to somebody that is a more all-rounded kind of coach to teach them that learning takes place well beyond the academic subjects. Yeah. So more essentially is skills. I believe skills is now more relevant than ever. And in the market, there's not really many ex-teachers that is out there to focus on the coaching of learning skills. So I think there's an opportunity there for me to make a difference. Yeah. I have one video to share.
Yes, please.
This video is from 2017. It's by then Education Minister Ong Ye Kung. He's sharing about the importance of learning skills. So if you can permit me, I share the video now.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
In the meantime, I will also post the Facebook page link. See whether you can share with your audience.
Mm.
You can do it after that. Yeah.
Okay.
We have to adopt what is best in the world to improve our system. And today, we have a strong emphasis on skills, on learning skills. And there's a logic to that. Because today, information and knowledge is all on the internet. And you can Google and find out everything in the world. But skills you get from experience, from doing. And you can't Google for skills. And that, I think, has a premium. And our education system has to be lifelong and emphasize on the acquisition of skills.
Yeah. So I think he spoke quite, the point was very clear that skills is now the way to go. And even now when Minister Lawrence Wong took over, he also emphasized the importance of learning how to learn, because whatever they learn now could be obsolete, and technical knowledge may not be applicable sometimes down the road. So the ability to learn how to learn is critical. Yeah. So what I'm teaching is essentially neuroactive filtering, and also meta learning, whereby the students will know how to control their minds, their emotions, etc., and know how to be in a better state of mind for learning anything more than just academics. Because our brains is wired in a certain way whereby we are able to, as long as we know how the brain works, how is the neurological basis of how we learn, we can actually use these processes to advantage and make sure that the learning will be effective. So some people told me my child study a lot, but how come still fail? The problem is the child study a lot but didn't learn anything. Or I don't know how to learn, or don't know how to study, but he think he study but there is no learning. So these are all the challenges that many parents face. Study doesn't equal to learning. Learning really requires a certain the right conditions. Before that is also a right frame of mind, and also there are methods to make learning more effective. So there are times where the learning could be maybe 5%, 10%, when if you use correct methods, you could go up to 40, 50, 60%. It's very rare that learning can exceed, can be 100%. You can 100% only if you are the one teaching. You reteach the same thing, you learn 100% again. Yeah. So these are science, there's a science. So recently, I think just a few days ago, if you see the newspaper, NIE in NTU, they opened a new center called the Science of Learning Education Center, SOLEC.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What does it do?
Well, it use science. It use science to measure the physiological parts of students when they learn. So they have control group. They have another group that is being measured or being learned. And you know, medical equipments, medical instruments like EEG, electroencephalogram. They put the pods on the head, and then to measure the brain waves, and also they have functional MRI. And these medical devices, which was used in a medical setting at first, now they have brought to the education setting to measure real life how the brain responds in certain learning situations. And Singapore actually playing catch up because other countries is far ahead of this. And but it's better late than never. So glad the government understand and now recognize the importance that learning is more of a science compared to an art. It's more of a science.
Yeah, and I really love what you say, and it really resonates with me. That sometimes we see our children study, but there's no learning. And right now we have 6 parents online right now. Parents, if you resonate with me, that sometimes, okay, I'm a parent myself with 3 daughters, 2 in primary schools, and if you resonate with the message, like sometimes we have no idea our child is learning, but she's sitting down there, right, reading her book. Yeah, put a yes if you ever experience this. Yeah, so back to you, Daniel. So for such cases, because we parents are not exposed to all this scientific learning, so what would be some of the easy ways to start off with, or even be aware and help our kids?
To check whether they are learning?
Yeah, before we get agitated or scream at our kid. Why are you not learning?
Now, I think one of the biggest mistakes when it comes to checking of learning or is what is a state of mind prior to learning? What is a state of mind? What is a physiological state before they learn? So certain things is non-negotiable, like are they hungry? Do they like sleep? Do they like oxygen? Because some of the students, the posture, they don't sit well, they can't breathe well, the oxygen don't reach the brain, they can't study well. It is that kind of details when it comes to meta learning. It's posture. Sometimes it could be the posture. So there are so many factors involved. And when parents ask what have they learned, that is actually what have they learned is the best question to check for learning. What have they learned? And you cannot answer for them. They need to answer themselves. If they cannot tell you what have they learned, usually you can be quite sure they didn't learn anything. So that is my most favorite question to all my students. After every lesson, I always ask the same question. So because something that they cannot recall and put in words and put in writing or whatever that they cannot tell you back is something which they have not consolidated in their mind, and it's something that they have not really learned. So passive encoding of information, stimulus coming outside, may not have stuck in. It went in but didn't go in. So it could come in here and come out here. But you want to ensure that it go in and stay in, they must be able to tell you what have they learned. They have to be able to do that. So that is a litmus test. And delivery of content is really just one side of the loop, because there's encoding, there's consolidation, and then after that, the third one is there's recall. So you want to make sure that the loop is complete, right? You have to make sure that they're able to recall, because the ability to recall give you a clue that they have encoded the information, they consolidated it, then they can recall. So the power of the question, what have you learned? And it should not be asked in a way whereby they will be fearful or they'll be scared, because when a child is scared or fearful, right, or feel it's unsafe to answer that question, or if they cannot answer, they get punished. You realize that the defensive mechanism kick in. They become very defensive. right? It's a fight or flight response. So that why it's involuntary. They will forget everything they learn and just become defensive. So that's why I encourage parents to, when it comes to the learning part, reduce the threat factor, reduce the fear factor as much as possible.
Mm.
For scolding, reserve it for behavioral issues.
Mm.
For learning issues, try to avoid the scolding. Because students cannot learn sometimes because of scolding. Get scolded, they got no mood to learn. And teachers, I think they also need to change in that. You cannot scold, and then expect the students to learn the next minute or the next hour. The brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, because when I remember when I was younger, my parents scolded me or my teacher scolded me, and then they resumed the teaching. I don't think I remember hearing anything, and I only remembered the anger, the unjust, like why did he scold me? Yeah, okay. So back to your question on when we ask a child what you learn, so what kind of response should a child give, and what if in some cases that the child give a response that is not in line with what the parents has expected?
What kind of response depend on what he has studied just before. If he has studied maths, you would have expect something maths related. Science, you would expect something science related. As long as something related to what he has studied, the lesson objective, that is the best. Because all lessons got objectives. All books, all academics, their objectives of what they need to learn. So that's optimal. But sometimes they may, after studying, discover something that they may surprise you, or by looking certain things from a different angle. Because even like simple things like fractions, right? Fractions, there are different ways to look at the word problem. The conventional way is just follow the narrative of the word problem. Peter has how many apples, who has how many oranges, and he can solve the problem for you. That is a normal kind of solving. If that can be done, okay, the child has met the lesson objective. But if the child is able to ask questions like, how come this John or this whoever buys so many apples? Why they all trade orange? Why they want to trade this kind of thing? If they can go to the details of asking why this word problem, people do this kind of weird thing inside the word problem, that means they are thinking deeper. This is called situational awareness. They are aware of what question is being thrown at them. Why do they have to exchange things and become equal after that? These kind of things is actually a very good sign that your child is thinking deeper. So that take precedence over even a lesson objective. Because ability to think on its own is a skill which I would say is under-taught in schools. Lesson objectives can be drilled in. And drilling in, what you drew in, you absorb fast. The key, you absorb fast, you forget fast also. But the ability to think, why the question is asked like this, that is a very profound thing which we have to encourage students to ask more. Why is it like that? So the meta, essentially, people ask me, what is meta learning? And coach meta learning essentially is to ask why in the learning. Why is it like that? Ask more why. So sometimes the depth of your understanding of a concept of a subject is how deep of whys can you go inside? How deep, how many layers of why can you understand inside? And some whys, there are no answers. The question itself is more interesting than the answer. But it activates the brain, you see, for them to think of the different parts that they learn that can connect with each other. So I really encourage students to think beyond just the standard answer. Because this new world is creativity, is connections, is so many things that non-academic, the new world really pays a premium on non-academic kind of thinking.
Okay, so let me just summarize for the parents out here. Parents, before I move on, okay, this session is free and it's meant for you. So if you have any question for us, just feel free to post in the comments box below. Yeah, okay. When it comes to probably a specific scenario of your child studying and the problem that he and you face, I think be as specific as you can, or share with us like what else do you want us to cover? And because for meta learning, it's actually a very, well, it sounds small and specific. Actually, it's a very wide topic. Yeah. So do help us out by asking questions so that we know what you need. Yeah. So for summary wise, you're talking about even so detailed like the breathing, the posture, which is a state of mind, as well as knowing that you study and learn, not just sit there. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yes.
then also, okay, we have Mami Eugenia. She's saying that the objective is to solve the math sum and not ask why. Yeah, I can understand where she's coming from, because in today's
That's for
world,
exam. That's for exam. Yes.
yeah, it's so
This exam,
hasty.
yes.
Yeah, so hasty, and sometimes we just want our child to give us an answer and hopefully and pray hard that it's correct, and then that's it. Like, but yes, if you agree with me, like, we just want to get it done. Yeah. So so apart from that, what are the techniques that parents can easily learn?
Number one,
Yeah.
I would say take a big premium of their state of mind, physiological state, and emotional state prior to any learning session.
Yeah.
So when the child is back from school after a long day, they are very, very tired. If you scold them and say, go and do your homework, the homework session won't be very fruitful because they're very tired. So they can take a power nap or have a short break or do 20, 30 minutes of rest of their brain, unwind their brain. Then they go to study. And then when they go study, trying to ensure that they are not doing it out of fear. Because our brain has three parts of the brain now. The limbic system is the one that helps us breathe. Okay, the one is involuntary. Evolutionary, the limbic system in our brain developed first. Next will be another system that help us fight or flight. That one is the reflex actions, reflex fight or flight. And when we fear things, this auto involuntary fight or flight response kick in. And the third one that developed the last will be the prefrontal cortex, the big one at the outside here. That is for us to do cognitive processing learning. So when we do homework, most of the time it's using the third part, whereby we do cognitive processing, whatever. But it's only contingent. The part you can use it well, contingent on the second part, whereby the fight or flight is not triggered. The fight or flight part whereby they are not fearful, they feel it's safe, it's not triggered. Because if you trigger that, the cognitive part is not going to work well. And then the whole study session is going to be inefficient. Yes, you can still say, I study for 1 hour, but what go inside is very, very little. So we would like to, I would like to maybe appeal to the parents before study session, let the children feel safe, let the children feel that the study session is something that they can enjoy doing it. So one of the things I often do is that you put a reward that is meaningful to the child at the end of the study session, a reward. So different children respond to different kind of rewards. So usually you use reward better than threats. Try to avoid threats. Threats has a short-term work, but there are long-term consequences that many years will surface many years down the road. So we try to avoid that.
Yeah, I think threats. Okay, I think I can also share with you my experience. For my middle child, I used to use threat. If you don't do this now, blah blah blah. Yeah, but lately, I took the reverse way. Also, upon the advice of my friend who is a counselor, I befriend with her first. And I took about 2 to 3 weeks. Then, doing things that she loved, spending time with her, and okay, long story short. So after filling up her emotional tank, then now when I ask her to do because she sees me like a friend, but I think our relationship is closer and stronger. So when I ask her to do work, she's much faster. Sometimes she'll like get off the track, yeah, but I don't scold her. I just say that, do you remember to do this or not? I mean, I say it in a very nice tone, and then the next thing that she did is she'll just go and do her work, which is much better than shouting.
Oh yes, that is far superior to shouting. If you can avoid shouting, is best, because nobody likes to get shouted at. Nobody likes to be.
Even us, right? Parents don't like to get shouted at.
Yeah, I mean, parents also don't like to be shouted at. So the key thing is we try not to trigger the fight or flight response prior to any learning. So let them enjoy. This is one of the best ways to make them enjoy the learning process. You realize some of the old school teachers, they are more used to the older way of teaching. They are in their 60s, 50s now. Every morning go to school. I think parents, some of them, they could relate. The first thing they do in 7:30 a.m. is scold the students. After that, spoil the mood for the whole day. The whole day the children cannot learn anything because they scold the whole class right at the early in the morning. So things. There are times which scolding it warrants scolding, but it should be minimized as much as possible, and if so targeted as possible. So let's say if only 2 or 3 students, right, misbehave outside the classroom, well, it's not smart for the teacher to go and scold the whole class just because that 2 or 3 students, but raise it as a case study of why this misbehavior is bad, etc.
And I do get some similar story from my girls lah. Yeah, like sometimes she felt so wrong because the school teacher scolded the whole class just because and she felt that just because some of her friends did something wrong.
Yeah, that is actually not very right, put it this way, because unless the teacher is scolding the case, the behavior, but not the class. But I know of teachers who sometimes scold the class because of a few students. It's actually not a very wise thing to do. Yeah. So I have a picture to show you. There is also from the St. Gallium Symposium. This one is got to do with the PISA score for science. Okay. So can you see this photo?
Yes.
This picture.
Yeah. So about it.
Yeah, this is actually from MOE Work Plan Seminar. If you look at the red orange triangle, there's a PISA science score for Singapore. Singapore scored top in the world, number 1 in science. So this is on average of all the students. So as a system, Singapore does well academically. The students perform very well academically, but that has not been factored. This red color diamond, right, has not been normalized against the number of hours of learning time. So if you normalize against the hours, you see the curve become blue color. That will be the blue curve. And then Singapore actually drops below average, the OECD average. Meaning the Singapore student, they spend more time, more effort to get diminishing returns. Yeah. So the top countries, you look like Finland, look at Germany. They spend less time, but then they get more returns. So it's also whether the learning is effective and efficient. So there's only so much, we only have so many hours a week, so many hours a month, so many hours a day. So we want to spend it all on a specific subject, because after certain hours of learning of that one subject, the brain will not be able to absorb that effectively anymore. So switching subjects, switching topics, switching types of learning things, like from academic to non-academic, all these things actually help the whole brain to develop better. Yeah, so a lot of parents which send their children for enrichment, etc. Actually, this enrichment, as long as it's not excessive, this enrichment are good things that will support their learning. In school. Yeah, and best are not to those kind of sit down and then just fill in more worksheets and papers. They have enough of that in school. Do something that they can move around, or they can. It's a skill related kind of enrichment. Yeah, that would be much better for them. And also AI, because now technology is kicking. AI has become artificial intelligence, become more and more sophisticated, more and more powerful. So artificial intelligence is able to learn already. Right? A lot of problem solving, AI is able to learn. So if AI is able to do it, right? If you move down a few years down the road, a lot of things that AI can do, they will not hire humans to do. So if you are very good at doing things that the AI can easily replace, we are not going to, the children especially, they're not going to survive well in the new world. So there's one thing that AI cannot do yet. I can be very sure. AI had not learned how to learn. So that's why I am promoting this skill now. Learn how to learn, because that's a superpower that make them employable. That's a superpower that make them for life. They're able to have that edge over artificial intelligence, over robots, over things that essentially they cannot control, but they can control whatever skills they want to pick up to make themselves a living, make themselves useful to society.
And I really like the way that you say that it's important for the child to learn a skill and not just do more worksheets, which is something that they are already doing in school. From my own experience, I know that some parents prefer to have more worksheets because sometimes if the tutor ended the lesson without showing the parents that the worksheets are done, they are going to ask the tutor, so what have you been doing in the past 1 hour? Yeah. So I know there's some like struggle there, that we know that as educator, we know that learning is important, and yet to most parents, I feel is the worksheets. Yeah. So what will your advice be for parents who knows this, but they also believe that skills are important, but they're so stuck in the system that worksheets are important and they can't seem to get out of it.
I agree. Actually, worksheets are important, but how the worksheets is being filled is more important. If let's say the parents, the tutors, come out with the worksheet every other lesson and say, okay, I filled up this thing, this lesson, the students learn all this, and then the child brings back. Then after that, the parent keeps the worksheet and just asks, so what have you learned in the worksheet? If the students cannot answer, the whole session is actually wasted. Because that is no different from having a teacher just show the answer screen. Okay, now let's copy the answer and then reproduce the answer key on the worksheet and then let him bring home to account to the parents that, hey, we have done this worksheet. Because parents didn't sit through the whole class, man. They didn't know that how the worksheet got filled. But if the parent is able to just ask a question of the worksheet, okay, and the children can answer whether verbally or written or any way, without reference, then you can say the learning has taken place. So worksheet is essentially, I believe, a control method to say, okay, this is evidence of something has been done. But the real evidence is the ability to recall what have been learned in that lesson. Yeah. So my students often, after they have learned something, right, they record everything down, right, in their notes. I will take the notebooks away and close it and say, okay, what do you remember inside? If they cannot record, whatever they take in the notes is blind transferring, just blind transfer. Blind transfer, nobody would, I mean, it is a very low cognitive load thing to transfer things from the whiteboard or to the whiteboard, just to hear and transfer. Because there is no different from, I mean, what skill does it trigger? What cognitive, what learning does it? How much learning would there be if you just record things down? So a lot of parents probably, one of the best way is to ask them what have they learned and make sure when they answer, they don't refer to anything. They can answer, then yes. And if the tutors can consistently produce students after tuition lesson and they come back and tell you, Papa, Mama, this is what I learned from tuition. This is what I learned from it. Without parents even asking, that is the gem. That is one of the best tutors you can get. Because they even trigger the learning of the child, the love for learning. Those kind of teachers are very rare.
So sounds like we also need to go back to the purpose of why worksheet is even invented. Yeah, it's a check-in. Yeah, but I think along the way, somehow the quality of the learning to some of us may be pegged to the quantity of the worksheets done. Yeah. And there's a mismatch there, I feel.
Well, it is how much worksheet they completed and how much learning took place, they are quite two different things, you see. People who complete a lot of worksheet may have the illusion that they have learned a lot of things. Because completion of worksheet to me does not equate to learning. To me, learning is the ability to do the things on his own without reference, without guidance. So if somebody told me that, oh, I've done all these worksheets, I will not be impressed until I randomly pick one out.
Mm-hmm.
I remove all the answer. Okay, I test you one more time. If you can produce all the answers again without
Mm.
reference, okay, then I would say this person has learned, which
Mm.
is itself can easily fool people to think that they have learned a lot of things.
Mm.
Yeah, even books, some people they read books, but they just scan through, their eyes scan through very quickly, and then they, oh, I finished reading this book. You ask them to summarize the book, they can't.
Yep.
But then they feel good that they have finished the book. So they have bookshelves also, oh, they finish. Then I randomly pick one and say, what is the summary of this? Cannot tell. So these are feel good people, you know, they feel that they have read. It's a psychology thing, they want to comfort themselves. But the real thing is whether you can remember and retain what you have learned. And with that, right, one of the best skills is to recall, try to recall on that. The more important the thing is, right, more frequent you should try to recall it. And then if you remember it very well, your next recall of the same subject matter should be further down the road. And that is very powerful. In science, neuroscience, learning science, we call it spaced repetition.
Space.
Spaced repetition. So you
How you
repeat
spell it?
something, but it's in a spaced manner. Okay, let me type it out in the chat box.
Yes, I will post it into the.
Repetition.
I'll post in the comment box.
So what I emphasize a lot is the active recall. That means you stimulate them to recall what have learned, and then in a manner that is spaced out further and further. So if they couldn't recall, you have to wait for a while and let them struggle a bit to recall. Many times I realize, they try to recall, then the parent fill up the answer for them. That one you miss a learning opportunity for them. Because when a student is struggling to recall what was it, you let them struggle for a while. That when they discover that, it will stick into their mind longer. And there's a psychological basis behind it, right? It's called the hypercorrection effect. Okay, I'm typing it down.
Hyper corrections.
Yes, hypercorrection effect. So when you see that a student is struggling to recall, or your child, do not give the answer straight away. Let it simmer for a while, 1 hour even, 2 hours, or the next day, then tell them. And then after that, say, yeah, yes, it's that, I remember. But they have been simmering they're struggling to remember for maybe one day. Yeah, that one will stick much deeper because of that sudden feeling of emotions of, I should have remembered that. Because emotions help people remember much better. Yeah, it has been proven. Anything you have information, once you inject emotions, it can last a whole life. The emotions should be positive lah. If it's negative, and it will become trauma. That's how people remember trauma for life, because emotion was so strong. You see, so we want to.
Could you give one example? Like, okay, because this is a maths Facebook group for parents who teach their kids primary school maths. Could you give one primary school maths example? Like, how do you add something that needs to be remembered with emotion?
Add something. Okay, now emotions basically add two things together with emotions, or a conceptual thing. Well, there are certain ways that we need to know, like when do we use the arrow sign?
Okay.
For when do we use the equal sign?
Okay.
Okay, so many people, they put 10% equal to $50. That is wrong.
That's wrong.
That's wrong because it cannot use equal sign. So use arrow.
Yeah.
So one of the ways, this one, emotions, depends. Emotions may or may not be the best, but sometimes visualization do help to replace of emotion. But you can actually combine all this together. Visualization, animation, use a story, or use a location, memory palace, or emotions. I call it the Vasula method. Vasula. There's a 5 anchor points, 5 pillars, whereby if you use them all, definitely you can remember it much better. Okay, so maybe I type it for you here. So it's a visualization. Okay, and then there's also animation. So if the students can animate or visualize the arrowhead and then the equal sign, and then put it in the right context, under what situation they are able to, they should story, there is story, and emotion, and one is repeat. location, and repeat. So if the parent is able to, the child is able to think of, these are the methods of visualize, okay, equal sign. When is the correct time to use equal sign? When you have percentage, when you have rate. Okay, so the equal sign is quite a sharp pointing thing, right? It's an equal sign is a sharp thing. So something sharp when you poke, you will feel painful. So that is something that they can imagine and visualize, or the pain of being poked. So when they have percentage, you know, percentage, how the percentage signal is written? Yes, it's a 0 and dash and 0, right?
Yep.
So usually I help my students remember, you know, when we use percentage, you have to use arrow sign, because the percentage, right, you can easily take out one of the stroke there and poke yourself, right? Yeah, it's the same feeling as you take the arrow and poke yourself.
Got it.
So percentage and arrow both a poke. They have something similar.
Okay.
It will cause pain. It's sharp, something sharp, because a symbol. So this is visualization and using some creativity to link. Why when you choose percentage, you have to always use the arrow instead of equal? Because equal, if you take the equal sign, I don't think it's very painful. But arrowhead will be painful. So these are the kind of things, you know. And then after they practice many rounds, they remember already. Percentage, definitely equal sign. Yeah. A simple example lah. Then there are so many ways, depend on their creativity, how they can think of associations of this with this, so that every time they see this, a brain straight away thinks, okay, it's associated with this, it linked with this. And then a cool thing is when they do the association, it is good that the association be quite ludicrous, quite ridiculous, because we remember ridiculous things more. Yeah, boring things you forget very fast. That's how our brain works.
We have a parent, Eugenia, asking, it'll be quite challenging for children who is not a visual person. Okay, so how do you address that?
Yeah, but the thing is, how do you know your child is not visual? Because our brain, most brains, in fact 99.9%, prefer visuals over words, prefer visual over words. Now, when they say they're not a visual person, usually, most of the time when children say that, they're a bit of a it's a bit of a self-limiting belief. They say they're not visual, that's why they avoid visuals, and then the visuals don't appeal as well to them. But our brains are wired to recognize pictures, images far better than words and text. So in psychology, it's called the pictorial superiority effect. It's called the PSE. So it is well studied in psychology that when people say that pictures speak 1,000 words, it does, because the brain analyze pictures much quicker than words, text. Part of our evolution. When we see a situation, the fight or flight response will kick in to help us survive. So not a visual person. Usually when that happens, right, I will complement it with audio. So visual auditory. Okay, a lot of parents say, "Oh, my child loves to read only. They don't like to see text or words." Just combine them. Let's combine and activate the different senses. So when you combine senses together, that is called multisensory learning. Okay, using ear, auditory, eyes, and sometimes I even tell my students to verbalize the answer out, because they verbalize, right? They are thinking before they can verbalize, and they verbalize, they hear their own voice. It's activate quite a lot of neural pathways at the same time. So when you make a student read through certain things, there is objectives to that, but the teacher need to know why they are doing it. Is to stimulate multisensory learning. Even pictures with movement and pictures without movement, the stimulation level to the brain is different. Yeah, if you have a still picture versus an animation, the animation is far superior. So I would think it is good if at any time possible, when things can be explained using animation or using live concrete examples of things moving, that will actually help the child remember much better, rather than just words. Words is efficient, but to a child that is learning fundamentals, that may not stick very well.
Yeah, probably let me chip in there and see whether I can help this parent. Okay, okay, one of the examples I want to give is as a child, does he watch movies like Avengers, Disney movies, those are highly effective animation. And does your child even remember any scene at all? And I'm sure he will have remembered more than one scene. Like, because kids also, I think kids being kids, like adults, we like Avengers, and you can recall almost all the interesting fighting scenes. Yeah. So for the fact that your child remembers that, he's already a visual learner, or at least he sees something he remembers. Yeah. So I think I agree with Daniel that sometimes we put limiting belief inside our head just because of one situation that tells us that our our child cannot learn visually. Yeah. So somehow we want to be open to other ways, because as our children grow, their strengths also change as well. Am I right?
Yes, correct. Absolutely right. The child's learning ability, learning needs, learning styles change over the age. So when they keep telling themselves, I'm not a visual learner, I'm not a visual learner, even if they are visual learners, they will remind themselves until they don't become visual learners. And actually, I would say there's no such thing as I'm a visual learner, I'm not a visual learner. All human beings, as long as they can see, they have eyeballs, they have sight, the sight will take over, pictures will take over more than words anytime, because the brain will naturally prefer a picture over words, naturally. Very few people, they say, I don't want to see pictures, I just want to see words. Very few, because the brain is primed to see, to process images faster, more effectively than text. Text, you still need to go through processing, if you don't know the language, the text means nothing to you. But a picture, you can get people from different cultural backgrounds. They can recognize the same picture. They can, because it's a picture. It's not a language. Like music, you see, when you listen to music don't need to have classical music without lyrics. People from different backgrounds, they can say this is pleasant music, this is noise, because it transcends language. Music and pictures transcend language. So when we want to stimulate learning, we want to use these modes of delivery that transcends language. Why the child is weak in the language? Does it mean that you use the language to limit the learning of the subject? So we use different modes lah, hearing, pictures, all these to complement the same learning outcome.
Great. Okay, so right now is already 5:48. Yeah. Would you want to because I know that the parents actually got a lot of tips out of your sharing. What will be one key takeaway for them that they can easily implement right now? And also, I think it'd be very helpful if you can give like a maths example on how they can apply this tip onto the maths aspect.
One takeaway with an example. I would say, okay, the bigger picture is learning how to learn is the most important skill moving forward.
Yep.
And to apply in the maths is very specific. To apply in a maths context would be when a child, I say, come back with a maths challenge. Okay, usually, as what I mentioned just now, right? Instead of asking the child to produce written evidence of what they have done, get the child to recreate answers, recreate the solutions, and think deeper why the question is asked like that. Non-exact. So it's essentially ask the child more questions that can stimulate their recall. And if they can recall once well, the next time you stimulate it will be a few days down the road, a bit longer. But if they can't recall, wait for the next day, ask the same question again. So this is what I would say will help them more. Word problem, if let's say formula for circles, area of circle is pi r square, right? So some children just cannot remember pi r square. So first day cannot remember, you don't tell the answer, you give them a challenge to ask them next day again. So when students come back, the answer should come from the students. What is pi r square? I mean, what is the area for circles? The child should be able to tell you it's pi r square eventually. So if they cannot answer at first, let them struggle for a while, and then this easily can be found out. Ask them to go and find it out. It's inside the textbook. So the process of going and finding out is effortful, you realize? Other than you just tell them it's pi r square. No, tell them go and find it out. because by taking effort to find out, when they found out, it sticks to their mind much better compared to you just tell them it's pi r square.
Mm.
And then if they were struggling, they cannot find out, then you drop hints along the way to help them find out. So
Mm.
we are triggering something called generative learning to let the student generate the answer, because generated learning that from the students do stick much better. So ask the correct questions and let the students struggle a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when it need be, you drop hints. And after that, when the students or a child is able to come up with the answer, give due encouragement, give due credit, due rewards. That is how you create a system that the brain can recognize. Every time I do this correctly, I get rewarded. And once the system is set in, it's a very healthy learning kind of environment for the children.
Got it. So parents, a summary for you will be, well, we get all the nice parents and students to chip in the answer whenever you post a question in this Facebook group or any other Facebook groups. One thing that I hope you can help me with it is do not show your child the answer straight away. Probably then it's a good thing you have the answer with some steps. The other thing is you will want to release the information slowly to your child and not just throw it there and say, hey, copy, submit the answer and the worksheet tomorrow, and that's it. Yeah. So
Yes.
let your child struggle through. And I know it's very hard. I mean, I think do you agree with me that sometimes it's so hard to hold back?
Go back. Whatever past is done is done. Is done. Let's move on, because parents are also learning as well.
Yes.
Something. I mean, parents sometimes very hard on themselves, because I mean, everyday parents, even if they have 3 children, this is the first time you are having 3 children at this age, at this time. You are learning parent every day. So parents themselves also have to not be too hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Things which, I mean, they had not been done correctly in the past, just change and do the correcting from today onwards.
Yes.
Yeah, now they know about it. And then, but if they insist to do their old ways, then nothing you can do. But now that they know, it's not too late to change. The earlier they change, the better, because learning actually really starts when they are in the mother's womb. It starts already. So as young as possible, if the parent can do all the correct techniques, correct methods, it's actually very, very helpful for the child for the whole life. Set the correct mindset that the child needs to learn more than just for school, but also for life. It's a skill that must learn for life.
Great. Yeah. So my takeaway is like no one is at fault. The parents is not at fault. The child is not at fault. Everyone is learning. Yeah. So the best way, okay, what past has already passed, the best way is to start again and then try to help a child again, because the intention is very clear and it's very pure. We are here for the kids, and that's why the Facebook group is here to support parents who teach their kids maths at home. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Daniel, okay, one more question that I ask all my guests. Is it okay I can ask you?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so do you remember the moments when you were about to take your PSLE?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So if I can invite you back to walk down the memory lane, then you walk down, then you see the 12-year-old Daniel. PSLE is coming, and you can see him, and he can see you as well, and you got so close to him that he can almost touch you, and you say hi to him. Okay. So looking back right now, what will you tell the 12-year-old Daniel? What will you tell him? Can be anything.
Well, I think back then, I was totally not interested in studying. So I will probably ask him to say, yeah, you should go and study. because for me, at that time, I didn't study at all. And my aggregate was 219. I got 219 for PSLE without studying. So I was thinking, if I had studied, probably I would have done much better. Yeah, but now PSLE is quite meaningless to me, because the whole process, now looking back, the whole process is so I mean, learning has is much beyond gone much beyond that. And the reason why I entered a neighborhood secondary school, because my PSL didn't do so well. I entered a neighborhood primary school that, interestingly, have a few teachers that triggered the flame of teaching in me, that made me who I am today. So had I not get 219, I would have gotten to another school and may not have met those teachers. Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to any teachers who have taught me before. I'm really grateful to you because I'm who I am today because of them. So yeah, be grateful to the teachers. There are teachers everywhere, even like us, our parents, we still have teachers around. And but the teachers, they don't call themselves teachers. They are teachers. Yeah. Anything you can learn from are your teachers, including painful mistakes.
Yes. As I always said to the parents and the kids, mistakes are our best friends. I think I want to write on what you have said. I will change it to mistakes are our best teachers.
Yes. And you need to own the mistakes, learn from it, and don't repeat again. This is the most important thing when there's mistakes.
Okay, great. If the parents want to get in touch with you for whatever reason, how can they contact you?
They can drop me a message. My handphone number, I can give it to them. My
Is it
phone number
okay?
is
Okay,
yeah.
maybe I think email is better.
Email. Sure.
Yeah.
I put my email in the chat box.
Because here we respect the privacy of the guests.
Oh, okay.
Along the way, later you want to give them the phone number is okay. But let's
yeah, sure. So it's admin at Best Minds.
you type up. Yeah.
So actually my handphone number is publicly on my website. That's my personal handphone number. So anyone can go to my website and get my personal handphone number.
Sure. So what's your personal website?
Bestminds.sg.
Okay.
This is not my personal website. This one is my company website.
Can.
Best Minds. So yeah, I work for this company. Yeah, I own this company also. So yeah, the company is me.
Okay, so
any parents really need specialized, customized help, they can kind of look for me.
You can drop a message to Daniel.
Send me a message.
Parents, just a disclaimer: this is not a commission-based program where I get
don't benefit anything.
Yeah. Okay, actually I benefited more than from the com if I have. No. I benefited a lot from the learning which I can apply to my kids. So something to share with you because along the like I told you, you are the 84th guest. Yeah. So in fact, because of all of you who have so selflessly shared, I actually tweaked about 90% of my parenting and my teaching. And right now, what I can share is I'm having a great relationship with my 3 daughters. All of them, yeah. So
awesome.
I'm not saying that they will climb on top of my head. They still respect me, but that's the magical part between the respect and still doing work and still coming to you and tell you and they talk to you. Yeah. So I guess that's something I can share as well.
I mean, I think you are an amazing father also, because it's very hard to raise 3 children. I have already one, already very hard headache. You have 3. So hats off to you. And it's quite tough. I really say parenting is a very tough thing, but the joys, if you can raise children who end up to be contributing members of society, they can be self-independent, they can find a job on their own, they can hold on. When you can do that, the immense reward is more than worth it.
Yes. Yes. And the aim of education is not just for them to pass PSLE, it's actually get them to thrive in life as well and be an adult even after we have left and we move on.
They are your legacy. Your children are your legacy. What you teach your children, typically, they will continue what the things you taught them, basically.
Yeah.
So the best way to leave legacy is not really money, it's your children. Yeah.
Awesome, got it. Okay, Daniel, thanks so much for being here, and I really learned a lot during this past 1 hour.
Thanks for inviting me.
And we actually planned like half an hour, right? Yeah, but there's so much content to share, and I'm sure you can hit 1 hour.
Yeah, correct. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be on your platform. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, parents, have a nice weekend. We'll see you around. And right now, I do less of such Facebook Live with external guests because I only want to bring you the best. Yeah, so Daniel is the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if you see me next time, there'll be an awesome guest. Yeah. So take care and have a nice weekend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.